Well, welcome everybody to another episode of Views from the Pit of Hell. Views from the Bridge, I think is what we're called now. Your second favorite podcast about the Philadelphia Union, or what is remaining of our soccer team. Tonight, I'm Justin, and I have Chuck with me. Chuck, other than Union soccer, how are you?
I've been kicked out of my office because of drywall being taken out due to a leak down there. So, I'm physically and personally fine, but I'm already being inconvenienced at home very heavily. And then the soccer team that I support isn't doing much of anything to lift my spirits.
No, that's very true. I guess first of all, how is your Euro coverage going, and are you enjoying that tournament so far?
So somehow I've lucked out. I have not written a thing on Euros outside of just what are the rosters for all the teams, because I've been just dealing with Copa America prep. So I've actually just been able to watch these soccer games without needing to write about them. And that's been great because these have actually been really good soccer games. Again, unlike the Philadelphia.
I haven't watched a ton of the Euros. I probably watched, 45, 50 minutes of the England game on Sunday. And then I've been keeping an eye on this. Yes, obviously. Well, most of what I actually paid attention to was the first half, so it was actually a pretty good game up until halftime. But then after halftime, they kind of were not as good. So it was fun to watch the first half. I did watch the last 15 minutes of Germany's opening game win. So I've watched a little bit here and there, but I haven't got to watch a ton. But hopefully over the next couple of days, I'll get to watch some more. So we'll see. I don't know where to start, Chuck. This has been.
I have a place to start because I want to.
Let's start.
I want to run back the tape and rescind everything I said the last time that we talked. Because remember when I was like, "Oh, as long as the Union don't lose by 3, I won't be too upset with this game." Well, they found a way.
Yeah, I don't think I ever tweeted it, but I felt like tweeting this game is one of those games where the result itself, I think you expect, right? You we both talked about, hey, we're probably going to lose this game. Doesn't really matter what you do at this point. You're probably going to lose. Just don't lose by 5. You know what I mean? Don't,
Yeah.
And so I think at the end of the season, when we go back and look at the results and you see a 2-1 loss against Miami, you go, okay, whatever. No big deal. It's just the way you lose. And
unfortunately, this isn't a result that you this isn't one you forget.
No, you won't. I just mean in isolation, you see a 2-1 loss to Miami in a string of results. You go, okay, whatever, no big deal. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, we'll remember it. But you probably look back and be like, oh yeah, that 2-1 loss in the middle of the season against Miami, whatever. But then you go back and watch the tape and see how they did it up to people. I don't know, Chuck.
Dude,
I don't even know.
So it is actually so hard to know where to start here, because even at first 3 minutes in you think, oh, this is gonna be great. Or actually did what he's supposed to do. He's stepping up because of Julian Carranza being on the way out. He actually is having a relatively good season, all things considered, and I do think that he should get credit for that. But it's somehow, since the Union scored the first goal instead of conceding it, they didn't know what to do after.
Nope. Nope, they did not.
And like I there's just like there's so many problems because even before Miami's actual like winning goal, which was just ridiculous, and if there was another center back, like Jacob Glesnes should be benched, and I mean Jim Curtin should still find a way to bench him because there's also even the losing Benjamin Kramaski where he hit the post, and it's just like you're already up a man at that point, and how do you still
Mm-hmm.
lose him? And then how up two men do you let Jacob Glesnes be the only person back defending when Miami still has pace at the end of the game and like can presumably win the game?
Yes.
Oh, and Ali Bedoya is injured now.
We needed another midfielder to be out of the lineup for the string of games coming up. That's definitely what we needed.
Yeah, especially since like we did get the boost of having the Olympic guys back for this game before they like do eventually. Now I actually don't know when they go away. Because I thought that they were just gonna like kind of stay in camp, but they're not. So now I need to figure out when they report again. But I guess at least the good news is they are available for the game against Cincinnati, and you'll hopefully now have Quinn Sullivan back where he belongs in midfield because there's not another midfielder to play there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
It's something.
This is just one of those games where I don't even know what to say anymore. And we've talked about this for years. Listen, we've had this podcast. What is this? Our sixth season of this podcast, and it feels like a recurring joke, but it's not a joke anymore. Of like when the Union go up a man, they collapse almost every time. Like there's just so many times where it's like, okay, we're up a man, let's get a win. Let's be
But
professional about this. Go
this
and get
one
a
feels
win.
different.
Get out of there. Yeah, I mean this one feels different, but it's the same result.
Yeah, but I
You
just
get up a
mean
man, you don't know how to play.
when you add that specific loss in the context of everything else going around the Union, which we'll get to more of that later in this, it really feels like some people out there just didn't want to play soccer.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like this team is, I don't know, unmotivated at this point. And it's frustrating because I get it. I mean, you just can't buy a win at this point in time. And um so what do you do? And I don't know the answer anymore, but hopefully they'll get figured out. I mean, I guess Curtin in his press conference today feels like they can grind out a
I
result
mean,
against Cincinnati.
sure he does. I don't. and and unlike him, I'm allowed to say negative things about the team. He's just doing damage control for Kai Wagner because now since he's signed a new contract, can't you do his normal? Oh, the transfer window's opening. Let me pander for a move. He instead wants to blow up the team from the inside.
Another summer of Kai.
It truly is insane that like one of our best players, and I mean I know you can say this about plenty of people on the team, but even probably will go down as like one of the best soccer players in club history when all is said and done, despite everything else that he's done. um, just like comes out and says this. And even when it's like, this is similar to what Andre Blake said, Andre Blake said it in a much more like controlled manner that's just like, this is your captain speaking, and I've built up enough like time here to be able to say this appropriately, and kind of didn't.
Yeah, and I feel like Jim said as much of like, hey, this can't have like we that kind of stuff just shouldn't be said outside of the walls of the training facility. You know what I mean? Like it's just not. It's not something you go out to the media and say, hey, listen, our team sucks. You know, like, and we just like it doesn't. That doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the players that are on the field. It doesn't help the players who are not on the field. And so you got to figure out how to manage your emotions in an interview setting. Say, yeah, this is frustrating. It sucks. We've had a bad season. You know, all that kind of stuff. But then turn around and say, hey, listen, we feel like we can be professional about it. We can turn it around. We'll figure it out for the next game. We'll get it. You know, like, and it's just that's how you got to. That's how you have to do it. You have to turn around at the end of the statement and just say, listen, like, it's been a bad season. That was a terrible result. We're all taking accountability for what has happened. And, you know, we will come back stronger on Wednesday against Cincinnati. You know, like, that's how you have to respond to this situation. That's just not the way he responded to it in the interview. And it doesn't, it
I don't know.
help.
Yeah, I don't know if he's actually capable of taking accountability. Like,
no,
just, you know, based on everything we know about him as a person and soccer player. And it's annoying because, like, you want athletes to, like, show their personality and, like, not be afraid to talk to media. But he just shouldn't talk. Like, just
no.
Go about your business, go home, enjoy your life, but just don't talk.
Yeah. Yeah, seriously. If you can't say anything nice, just don't say anything at all, you know? I feel like that's what I learned as a kid, and that's what the reality should be going forward in any case. So we could just leave 5 minutes of silence in the middle of this podcast. Like, just mourn this team for a second. Okay, 5 minute pause. Everybody go out and scream for 5 seconds outside. Come back in and we'll continue.
Yeah, I would say I'm pouring one out, but this beer can't be wasted on the ground for this team. It more needs to go in my body because of this team.
True. Speaking of this team, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, the funny thing is the fact that since now we're on YouTube, we don't have to say that this is a visual reference on an audio podcast because you guys can see just how disappointed we all
are. It is kind of one of those situations of like, I might as well laugh because otherwise I'm going to cry about it, and it's not worth crying over at this point. And not really, I don't know, sports is over with crying every period, but
we have been through worse with this team.
We have. This is not the lowest of lows, but it's definitely the lowest of the past 5 years. So it feels like it's just, you know, yeah, it's just a sad state of affairs. Speaking of sad state of affairs, Julian Carranza is seemingly not playing for the Union ever again.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like we've been prepared for that for a while, because even after that first, like, oh, he's injured, but he's going to play again. It's like, you sure, Jim? Is he really going to play again? And then now it's, oh, he is actually going to Feyenoord, and now it's figuring out if the Union are getting anything for him, which is like now the weird situation. And it's like, while it would be nice if they actually got money for him, if it does mean that like he goes there for free and they get like a 25% sell-on fee or something like that, I have no issues with that because he's going to a team in Champions League and he will be sold to a better league eventually, and that could be a move that nets 20 million or more because of going from Feyenoord as opposed to going from Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. It's just hard. Like I like talking to some people earlier this week. I think it's hard because I look at this situation and I go, all right, this is what the Union do, right? They buy young players, they develop them, they sell them off. That's what they did with
But usually at
Brendan,
the end of the
Paxton,
season, not the middle of it.
Mark McKenzie, like everybody that they've had who, they develop, sell them off, whatever. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is like this feels like this just feels like it hurts. If we're in the middle of a good season, we're sitting top of the table, near the top of the table, whatever. We sell Karan's on. We go, okay, we're gonna have a few games. We're gonna take that money. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna buy somebody. We're gonna make mid-season acquisition, and we'll figure it out for the rest of the season. And you hope Ure steps up. All that kind of stuff. The problem is we're having a terrible season. We don't have any more games to waste. Really, we've got to get on a run here at some point to get ourselves solidly within the playoff picture. And it doesn't feel like at this point in time the Union are capable of doing that. And so if the Union aren't capable of doing that because now they don't have their top goal scorer, they who knows when our top goalkeeper is going to be back. The center backs who have been seemingly pretty sturdy for us for the past 4 seasons seemingly don't know how to play soccer anymore and can't keep themselves from getting suspended, or they're playing for Jamaica. And so it's just like there's just no, it just doesn't, and then the captain gets injured and we don't have our number 10 because he's in Europe sitting on the bench for Hungary. And there's no breaks. It doesn't feel like, hey, the Union are going to catch a break at some point in time. And like we go from, all right, cool, we got a break, not playing Lionel Messi when Miami comes to town, them playing reckless soccer and getting 2 red cards, and we still can't get a win there. And then you go from that and like, okay, you've now played that team and you seemingly got a break there. And oh, guess who's next? The MVP candidate, Lucho Acosta. And it's like there's just no breaks. It just doesn't feel like we're getting a break at all. And it just feels like we're going to get to mid-July and be having the same conversation about how the Union haven't gotten a result in several weeks, and we're now fully outside the playoff line. And what do we do now? And I hate that.
Yeah. No, and I mean, that literally is where we are, because even if a new signing somehow does come in, which I mean, I think at this point, if somehow this team goes through the summer without signing a single starter, we're gonna need to like come up with games to play on the podcast or something to avoid still having the same conversation again, just because of the fact that that would be just such a statement of defeat from Jay Sugarman, Ernst Tanner, and even Jim Curtin not bursting into someone's office and threatening his own resignation solely for getting a better team, because he doesn't enjoy this. But also it's like, even if they do that, when has an attacking summer signing worked out for the Union that summer?
Yeah, never.
Like I can't think of a single one. And it's like, yeah, on one hand, I'll be happy if the Union like get a new player in because it at least is a statement of intent, I'm already like in the back of my mind being like, but they're for next year.
Yeah, yeah, that's hard. I do feel like if you're going to make a summer signing that will work out and is something that is going to happen, it's gonna have to be like it's gonna have to be an inter MLS
I mean,
situation, which is
what's Carlos
what the
Vela
union
up to?
never do. Yeah, yeah,
Like, I mean, I would. There are worse things to do than signing Carlos Vela to a 6-month contract and saying, "Stay forward."
yeah. I mean, seriously, and I think that's where, like, could you potentially move one of your right backs for some money and a striker? You know, like I don't know, but it feels like that's the way it's gonna have to go. If you're going and getting somebody from Europe, South America, whatever, and trying to be like, hey, come in and score some goals for us, that is saying like, hey, we're waiting until next year and we're hoping that we can make some signings in the off season and all of that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It just feels it feels depressing and desperate at this point.
Yep. And we have 2 more games this week.
Yes.
And then Leagues Cup starts soon.
Yep. Yep. So we have I don't know. And that's what I was you guys will hear Friday morning our Charlotte podcast comes out, or Charlotte preview with Queen's Pitch. And I was talking to them last night and just recording our episode, but we got talking a little bit after the podcast. And I think like one of the things I was talking about with them is it just, again, it feels like it's like, okay, we got our break of like, hey, when you play Miami, like you don't have to play Suarez, you don't have to play Messi. Yes, you get Busquets and Alba, but that's a little bit different than having all 4 of them on the field. So like you got your break and like whatever. But aside from that, it didn't feel like a break. You have top in the East, Miami coming to town. Then you've got second in the East, Cincinnati coming to town. And then you've got 5th in the East or 4th in the East, Charlotte coming to town. And it just like, or like playing. And so it's just like you have these games right in a row. And it's like there's not an easy game in there. And so how do you figure that out? How do you get going and all of that kind of stuff? And
Yeah.
so it
I mean,
does feel like
Charlotte,
Jim's
just hope there's
correct.
no
Like,
goals.
what?
I was saying, Charlotte, you just hope there's no goals.
Well, yeah, and that is kind of the thing. Is it seems like talking to them, and you'll hear the podcast. It seems like they're having sort of the same struggles we are. Of like they're fairly defensively stable, but they can't score, and it's like, well, that's kind of the Union's thing right now. I don't know that we're defensively stable, but we don't give up that many goals, but we
Yeah, we're
can't
still a
seem to
better
score.
defense than most of the league. It's just we're
Right.
a terrible defense in the first 15 minutes of a game. And
Right.
if we're playing with 11 and you're playing with 10.
Yes. So I think that's the struggle for me now. Is like I can't even like look and see, if you grind out some sort of result, even if it's just a draw against Cincinnati, and then you can like you get a win and a draw against Charlotte and Montreal. Maybe you get into July feeling somewhat better about this team.
Nope. I mean, I don't know. The only thing that could make me feel better about this team by July is a signing. Like, I don't think that there's a result in the world that could turn around like this run. Just because it's like, because even before all of this, it was like you beat New England 3-0 and still didn't feel great about that win. And now it's 4 presumably you'll get to 6 matches without a win before playing Montreal. And then if somehow they don't beat Montreal at that point, which we all know how games against Montreal go, like fires will legitimately be starting. And I am surprised that I don't see more people calling for Jim Curtin's head. But if they don't beat Montreal, people will do that. Not that it's something that should be done, because it's not particularly his fault. He just doesn't have the players right now.
Yeah, I think that's what people realize for the most part, and I think that is what is the silver lining of all of this. Is it's fairly clear it's not him, and it's not necessarily our I don't know, tactics, setup, all of that kind of stuff. Every game, there have been some games this season that have been tactically off. But like for the most part, I feel like tactically we've been fine. It's just like when you're
Actually,
playing.
I feel like the better question right now is, if something doesn't change by the end of the year, do you call for a new sporting director?
I mean, I think that either that or an investment in the ownership group.
I mean, we always want an investment in the ownership group. No matter what happens, I want an investment in the ownership group, and I understand that it is harder for Ernst Tanner to do his job without an investment in the ownership group, because the way that the market is, like $1 million goes a lot less far as it used to. But like, we're still seeing what a lot of teams around MLS are doing with $1 million. Even like right now, you have St. Louis just like absolutely raiding the A League because of the fact that that entire league could be going out of business next season. Um, and it's like, why aren't we doing that? Like, we don't have money either. They don't have money. Like, goes further.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just and I mean that's what I think is good is like the Union. Most of the Union fans realize this is not Jim's fault necessarily. And I think like they're like I said, there have been games, but I think for the most part, when you're having to play Quinn Sullivan, who is not a striker, as a striker, and you're having to.
I do think that one's Jim's fault, though, because like, I get that Quinn Sullivan's probably still a better striker than like Chris Donovan, but it's not like Chris Donovan hasn't been available at any point of the season to keep Quinn Sullivan in his natural position.
Yeah, but I think he's not the best 8 on the field either. So,
but is he a better 8 than this many minutes of Bedoya?
Well, Bedoya is going to have 0 minutes for the next 3 to 4 weeks. So, I think we'll see Quinn Sullivan at the 8. But I don't know. I don't know how you. Yeah, I don't know how you do this when you've got only 3 healthy center backs that you feel confident playing in a game. And so, like even this past game against Miami, you have a chance to give McKenna a start, and you don't because you play Nate Harriel there. It just doesn't. I don't know. There's no. I don't know. We don't have the players, and I think most people realize that, and most people realize we have no depth. We have basically the first team, and that's it. And now we've lost Blake, we've lost Bedoya, we've lost Carranza most likely. You have McGlynn, Harriol off to the Olympics. You've got Gazdag and Hungary. You've got Damian Lowe with Jamaica.
Yeah, it's
And
at
now you're
at
playing
least
your
some of
second
these
team.
teams will have their runs in their respective tournaments end early.
Yes. It's true. It's true. That will help.
But it's not great.
No, it's not great. Not great. Over under 2.5 points in the next 2 games.
Under.
Really? I mean, I'm not surprised. I don't know why I said that.
I mean, I'll say I have 1 point because I do.
Yeah.
Like, I think they lose to Cincinnati, and I think Charlotte's a goalless draw because, like, in a lot of ways, things are a lot more positive in Charlotte, but in a lot of ways, these are the same team.
Yeah. Yeah, and we played to a goalless draw a month ago, so why wouldn't we just play to a goalless draw again? Because MLS can't put our schedule any further apart. So that's fun. Anything else, Chuck? I don't want to talk about this anymore.
And now, I mean, I think we've done everything that we can at this point. I mean, we've gone through relatively balanced takes while still taking a look at the holistic situation of the team, which is really all we can do at this stage. Unfortunately, we're going to have 2 games to talk about next time we record instead of 1.
Hopefully, at least one of them's a halfway positive experience that makes us feel at least somewhat good about something.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I will take the draw against Charlotte. That will be semi-positive after the way of losing to Miami and then losing to Cincinnati. Because, yeah, I just really didn't think that there was going to be a way with the players that Miami had available for that loss to feel as bad as it did, and just the fact that they've done that has just really changed my expectations for things.
Yes. Yeah, I think the positive spin that I would try to put on it is the Union still have, I don't know, 3 months until playoffs. The value or the benefit of the playoff structure is you just got to get in. Do we want a first round matchup against Miami? No. But, like, could you take it? Sure, you could take it. And so I think, like, I think that's the benefit that we have right now with this structure. If this was Europe, we'd get to this point in the season and feel like, oh my gosh, there's no hope. We're just sunk and we're just done. But the reality is, for where we are in the U.S. and playoff structures and everything else, you just got to get there.
In a way, though, wouldn't it be fun for just being a mid-table team and the season's over, because this team's not bad enough to get relegated?
I guess that's true. Maybe that is true, because I feel like if you do get relegated, like, getting relegated sucks, of course, but you almost feel like if you can keep enough of your core together, you can make a run immediately the next season and get back up, and we see that fairly, not all the time, but decently often in the countries that have pro rel. It's like, oh, somebody goes down next season, they keep enough of the core together, they make a nice little run, and they, come right back up. And so that, like, okay, cool. But in our league, it's just like, oh, you finished bottom of the table? Cool. Expect to probably finish close to that next season, if not there again.
It really is, like, no consolation prize, especially with the fact that it's not like the best players go into the draft anymore. So it's like, oh, you get a number one draft pick. Great. The Union haven't effectively used the draft pick since Ernst Tanner took over.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't even know how to end this on a positive. I want to like feel like, okay, cool, let's end it on a positive note of some sort.
I mean, there isn't one. Like, the
I don't know how to
positive,
end it on a positive.
just hope that things get better in the future, and the next time that we talk to each other, we at least have a point to talk about.
I feel like the to go back to the games this week. I feel like the game against Cincinnati is another one of just don't lose by 4. You know, like don't capitulate. You know, and then hopefully, yeah, you can grind out something against Charlotte. And then I won't say there probably is nothing worse than losing by 4 to Cincinnati, because I feel like this team could figure out another way to.
Exactly. Like I already cursed everything last episode, so I'm done with that now.
Yeah. Just yes. Next time we talk, next Tuesday, I would like some sort of result to talk about, whether it's a win or a draw. I would like at least
Or a
one
signing. A signing's a
or a
result.
signing. Yes. One of those 3 things, that would be great to have to talk about. Well, that's it from us tonight. You can find us at VFTBPod, wherever you find your podcast, and on social media. Right now, you can listen to the Cincinnati preview with Ryan from Flying Line. He gave us a great kind of rundown of what's happening in Cincinnati this year. Asked him a little bit about how we feel about Cincinnati being the little brother who is, and why we want to beat them so bad. But we won't. And then on Friday, we'll have a preview episode with Queen's Pitch. Kara and Bridget jumped on and talked a little bit about Charlotte and what they're going through this season, what they're experiencing. And then we'll talk to you next Tuesday, and hopefully we'll have something to talk about. I don't know if we will, but we'll have something to talk about. Other than that, have a great week. Enjoy the 2 games. See ya.